In this edition, we mark the anniversary of the Great War, how Ukraine endured and now is already teaching NATO how to properly close the skies. Ukrainian drones destroyed several important targets today and once again struck a massive oil hub in Russia. Putin is frightening the world with nuclear threats and predicting an explosion of the Turk Stream pipeline. Meanwhile, Medvedev has fallen into what looks like an alcoholic rage, threatening a march on Europe. Orban and Fico have gone bargaining for Russian oil, while Donald Trump has set a tough deadline. A peace agreement must be signed by the anniversary of the United States. All this and much more in today's episode. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. I'm glad to see you here. And don't forget to subscribe. 4 years ago, on February 24th, Ukrainians' lives changed forever. Many people remember that day vividly. Interestingly, among my acquaintances, opinions are divided. Some remember every tiny detail, while others barely remember it at all. That day, the first nationwide air raid sirens sounded across Ukraine. Russian occupying forces launched strikes, and Russian troops advanced toward Ukraine from several directions. My great-grandmother used to repeat all her life, "As long as there is no war." When I was a child, I thought, where would a war even come from? There will never be another war. Wars are over. We will be the generation telling our grandchildren, as long as there is no war. Today, social media feeds are filled with footage from those first days. It feels as if it happened 100 years ago, or in another life entirely. I remember the enormous wave of Russian disinformation at the time. Kharkiv had supposedly fallen. Kyiv was about to fall. Ukrainian forces were allegedly surrendering by the thousands. A landing operation in Odessa was claimed to be underway. The advance of the Russian army was described as unstoppable. This disinformation poured in from everywhere. But very soon, everything changed. Russia's defeat near Kyiv, their retreat back toward Belarus, and then Bucha, Irpin, Borodyanka, atrocities the entire world would learn about. 4 years ago, we asked NATO to close our skies. Now it almost sounds ironic. Today, Ukrainian soldiers demonstrate to NATO during exercises how to fight modern wars and counter drones. In many ways, Ukraine is now teaching NATO how air defense should actually work. And NATO still hasn't closed the sky. Do you remember who called you first that morning, or whom you called? I had just returned home from a night broadcast at the Dovzhenko film studio and went to sleep. In the morning, all of Ukraine woke up to explosions. In our work chat, which included military personnel and officials, someone wrote, "Are you aware the war has started?" That was the last message ever sent there. I even went to work that day with a colleague. We thought we needed to gather, organize, figure out what to do. That's how the war began. And the unity of Ukrainians didn't come from above, it came from below. People organized themselves, formed volunteer groups, coordinated actions, armed themselves, small streams merging into one powerful river. It was astonishing self-organization. Russia was clearly shocked by the resistance Ukrainians put up. Their troops were fought back, their equipment destroyed, their advance stopped. Later came calls from relatives in Crimea, where I was born, telling me, "You're being saved. The Russian army is the kindest in the world. They won't harm anyone." Many genuinely refused to believe Russia had launched missile strikes that morning. They thought Russian tanks would be welcomed with flowers. I told those relatives exactly where to go, once and for all. Now we are entering the 5th year of war, after the full-scale invasion. And when Russians say everything is going according to plan, I simply remind them Russian troops once stood near Kyiv, and Kherson was occupied, and later they were driven out of Kherson completely. Today, Russian experts calculate how many more years and how many more Russian lives it will take just to occupy Donbass. So yes, everything is according to plan. Now to some good news. Yesterday, it became known that in Crimea, a Bastion coastal missile system used to launch Zircon missiles was destroyed at a storage site near Sofivka in the Simferopol district. Estimated value, $150 million, gone in seconds. Ukrainian drones also struck the Kolyakina oil pumping station in Tatarstan, about 1,000 kilometers from Ukraine's border, one of Russia's key oil infrastructure hubs. New footage shows a massive fire there. Just imagine, when Russian troops were approaching Kiev, could anyone in Russia have imagined that years later strategic facilities deep inside Russian territory would be burning? Ukrainian drones now strike targets more than 1,000 kilometers away. Covering such vast territory with air defense systems is physically impossible. Every long-range strike creates enormous problems for the Russian military, and strikes continue, including against occupied Crimea, where a Panzer Is-1 air defense system and a Malachit radar were destroyed. Additional attacks hit Russian equipment in occupied Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia regions, including a Uragan MLRS and a Buk M1 system. The fifth year of war is not because Russia has a weak army. It has enormous resources, aviation, missiles, drones, but the resilience and heroism of the Ukrainian people and defenders stopped that massive force. As always, this episode includes a fundraiser for Ukraine's defense forces, specifically an electronic warfare company of the 1st Separate Assault Regiment, named after hero of Ukraine Dmytro Kotsyubaylo, known as Da Vinci. The unit needs support to repair vehicles and EW systems. Every donation directly helps protect Ukrainian soldiers from enemy drones. Together, we are a powerful force. Meanwhile, Putin today claimed Ukraine supposedly plans to use a nuclear bomb and sabotage gas pipelines in the Black Sea. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service even accused France and the United Kingdom of preparing to transfer nuclear technology to Ukraine, claims widely seen as propaganda. Medvedev also issued new nuclear threats, promising retaliation against Europe if such transfers occurred. These nuclear statements appear aimed at shifting attention away from the anniversary marking 5 years since the full-scale invasion began. At the same time, Slovakia halted emergency electricity supplies to Ukraine amid tensions linked to Russian oil deliveries affecting Hungary and Slovakia. Ukraine's energy operator stated the move would not significantly impact the national energy system. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has proposed a symbolic deadline for a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia before July 4th, the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence. However, there are currently no signs that Putin is willing to accept terms short of his maximal demands. To conclude, I want to thank everyone who sincerely supports Ukraine. A few decisive steps, key military assistance, and continued pressure on Russia's economy could significantly weaken its war machine. War requires enormous funding. Without financial incentives, recruitment would collapse overnight. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Subscribe to the channel, and please continue supporting Ukraine's defenders. Have a peaceful day, and glory to Ukraine.